Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today I'm taking you to the Great League, where I threw together a couple anti-meta Pokemon on a team, and ended up having some pretty nice results. Important disclaimer before we do get into the battles: if you're still looking to rank up, hit Legend of the Season, this is not a team I recommend you use. I put together this team for fun. It's a very spicy team, and results with it are probably going to be pretty inconsistent, even if I went 8-4 with it. Now this team is built around the pairing of Kommo'o and Metang, two Pokemon whose pacing can kind of catch opponents off guard and output some pretty nice damage. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, we've got the Battle of Dragons, leading Kommo'o into Shadow's Wireless. Incredible spice for my opponent. I've seen regulars Wireless quite a bit. This is my first time encountering the Shadow. Upper hand is going to be shielded up by this Wireless, and Shadow Body Slam will basically knock out Kommo'o. So I decide to no shield and aggressively pivot into the Blastoise. Blastoise farming up, trying to get to the Hydro Cannon, but before I get there, they can threaten big damage with a Shadow Dark Pulse. I do not want to take a Body Slam, so I'm going to throw 2 rollouts in the Hydro Cannon and just look to remove Zweilous from the field of play. Zweilous does get knocked out, in comes Corviknight, and this is pretty nice for me. Metang does not want to see Corviknight at all. Corviknight is actually a Pokemon that this core is ABA weak to, so I'm very lucky that my opponent sent in the Corviknight here. My opponent will go for the Air Cutter bait. I don't think Payback would have quite knocked out, so I don't mind going double Air Cutter as it will be more efficient. The Hydro is going to land. My opponent can fire off another Air Cutter, and I'm going to need Metang to do good things in back. In comes Metang. My opponent is going to pivot. In the back is Water Gun Lantern, and I'm feeling pretty good about this game. I should be able to get to 3 Psyshocks, and Psyshock is a pretty efficient move. That good feeling evaporates, however, once I see the Psyshock damage. Lantern is so bulky. I'll be able to get to 3 Psyshocks, but they can shield 1, and I cannot 2-shot with Psyshock. They are just too bulky. So I thought I was in a winning position, but suddenly I might not be. I'm just going to continue to farm up a bunch of energy. Opponent is going to send in Corviknight. I don't even want them to get to an Air Cutter, so I will go for the Psyshock and take the knockout. Back in comes the Lantern. I make the Psyshock, and it looks like that's going to be a CMP tie. I still have health remaining on all of my Pokemon. I still have the Kommo'o and the Blastoise, and I decide to send in Kommo'o. I do get a Dragon Tail of damage. In comes Metang. It's gonna be a race, but we Fury Cutter down right before the Water Guns knock us out and take the game 1 win. Hopping into game number 2, leading Kommo'o into Araquanid. Araquanid is completely walled by Kommo'o. My opponent, I actually didn't see a sneak there, so did they CMP tie me to a Clanging Scales? Clanging Scales is the best charge attack in the entire game, so that inflicts devastating damage as my opponent CMP tied to a Bubble Beam. I'm going to look to overfarm, go for another Clanging Scales, because at -1 there's no way upper hand will knock out. My opponent decides to actually put up a shield. I want to preserve Kommo'o. If they're staying in this negative of a matchup, something is very clearly wrong. So I send out the Blastoise, they throw a Water Pulse, and I'm very surprised that they have not switched. The only reason for them to not switch out of this matchup is if they're very weak to Blastoise's energy in the back, and they confirm it as they bring out Stunfisk. Because they Bubble Beamed me, my Hydro Cannon will not 2-shot. I think at this point I can just stay in with the Blastoise, pressure them to throw energy, and then, now that I've gotten them so low, I'm confident that Metang will be able to close out this game. My opponent goes for a Mud Bomb, watching for a potential catch, and I send out Metang. Metang looking for a Fury Cutter farm down, not quite able to get there before my opponent gets to another Mud Bomb. In the back, they have a ground type. I was worried it was Marowak, but it was not. Instead, it's going to be Ice Fang Hippowdon. I'm full sending the Gyro Ball. Gyro Ball lands, and that is devastating damage onto Hippowdon. Now I can just go for the Psyshock. Psyshock will be pressuring the shield away from my opponent, and I absolutely have to respect the Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands would just do way too much damage. They bait with a Weather Ball. That's going to let them make another charge attack, but this is only a Weather Ball, and that's not going to do nearly enough damage to the bulky Metang. Metang has quite a bit of HP and energy remaining. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. We've got a very bad lead in the next match, Kommo'o into Charizard. It is an Ember Charizard, and Charizard's pacing is just absolutely unreal. Charizard is a big core breaker for this team, as it's going to beat the Kommo'o, and it's obviously going to shred Metang in the back. I bait with upper hand to save a little bit of energy, send out Blastoise, and my opponent is going to be bringing out Furret. Unfortunately, this is not where I want to see Furret on this team. I would rather actually see it on Metang, just because Metang does wall the energy, even if it does take super effective damage from the Sucker Punches. I shield up the Trailblaze, I get to fire off the back-to-back Hydro Cannons, and I believe this will just be enough damage to knock out the Furret. Hydro Cannon does not land, they put up the shield, and now I'm in a very tricky spot. I don't survive the Trailblaze. But if I give up the shield, then my Metang is probably going to get absolutely destroyed by a Charizard in the endgame. Charizard has 3 banked Embers of energy, so I take the knockout, but I think shielding that probably cost me the game. In comes Credilli, and this is very bad. I need my opponent to have an incredibly slow switch. I throw the Hydro. I'm going to look to send in Metang. My opponent switches into the Charizard, and I just can't get there. I get barely outpaced. Blast Burn KOs, and there's just nothing I can do to win this game now. I have energy on the Blastoise, I have the Hydro Cannon, so I can take the knockout, but I'm just going to get acided down by the Credilli. It's going to be close. I have a pretty good Blastoise, but I just don't have the HP needed, and unfortunately, we will end up losing that game. We move to the next match, leading Kommo'o into Shadow Marowak. Kommo'o is able to win Charge Attack priority over Marowak, and the threat of a Clanging Scales is absolutely terrifying for opponents. So I will bait with the upper hand gets the shield, and gets the upper hand defense drop. That is very nice for Kommo'o. I put up the shield on the Bone Club, now I can go for another upper hand, winning Charge Attack priority, and with the debuff, I think this will actually knock out. And it does. Down goes Marowak, in comes Altaria, Kommo'o gets to the Clanging Scales, and this guarantees a full one-shot or a shield. Altaria is bulky, but it does not matter. They get one shot. Dugong is answered by Metang, and my opponent will resign the match. We move to the next match, leading Kommo'o into Talonflame. This matchup is honestly uncomfortable for both the Kommo'o and the Talonflame player, because Kommo'o has the pacing advantage, but if they end up shielding the Clanging Scales, then suddenly Incinerates do monster damage. So I bait with the upper hand, and I'm able to get the debuff. They go for the fly. I'm going to go for the upper hand once again, just because I did already get a debuff. It's probably going to do most of their health bar. They will shield, and now I'm going to go for a third upper hand. I'm hopeful that with the debuff, this can just knock them out, and it does. They get KO'd, they lose so much energy, and oh my goodness, in comes Credilli. How weak are they to Kommo'o? Kommo'o smacks Credilli with an upper hand. Credilli will finally be able to take the knockout, but just like last game, Kommo'o is basically neutralizing 2 full Pokemon by itself. In comes Metang, in the back is Meowscarada. I finally have a Pokemon on my team that can beat a Meowscarada, and that's a good game. We move to the next match, and we've got same leads as last game, but this time the Talonflame is Shadow. The nice thing about the Talonflame being Shadow is my Dragon Tails are doing way more damage. Same game plan as before, but my opponent has a stone cold bait call. No shielding, calling the upper hand bait, grabbing the shield with fly, and now out comes Goodra. Against Goodra, I'm going to be unleashing back-to-back upper hands. I'm hoping to get both shields, but I know I'm guaranteed to at least get one. I have Metang, which is a very effective answer for the Goodra, and the moment they no-shield the second upper hand, I know that I made a misplay. After getting the shield with the first upper hand, I should have just brought in Metang, as here my opponent should actually be able to save the Goodra by throwing double Aqua Tail and then pivoting back into the Talon. Talon does not have a charge attack loaded yet, and I'm going to throw 3 Fury Cutters in the move, so they have to shield for this Incinerate damage to land. They do shield, the Incinerate damage lands, and they realize they're so low they might get Fury Cutter down, so they will go for the Flame Charge. Now, what do I take the energy on? I decided to take the energy on the Kommo'o, hoping that I will be able to get to an upper hand. I am pretty close to an upper hand. I believe with the Dragon Tail, I should be 2 off. No, I'm 3 off. Oh my goodness. I don't know my Kommo'o residuals, and that could actually cost me, as it's a Pangoro in the back. I know shield, it's a Night Slash, and that is step 1. I'm going to need to land a Skull Bash because a Hydro Cannon will not knock out, so I'm just going to go for it. And they don't go for the catch, and that will win me this game. My opponent predicted I would overfarm before throwing it, but I just throw it as soon as I get it, and the surprise factor pays off. It takes the knockout, and we get the win. Unfortunately, we are in absolute shambles in the next match, leading Kommo'o into Florages. Kommo'o will be walling Florages' energy, as they should be Trailblaze and Chilling Water, but this team is insanely weak to Florages. In comes Blastoise. Florages throws on alignment, so Blastoise does get a free rollout as they go for the Trailblaze. My hope is that if I can somehow get rid of the Florages, the Kommo'o energy will be able to get this win for me. My opponent does end up shielding a Hydro Cannon, and I'm going to have to shield back because Trailblaze would easily knock me out. My opponent knows they can survive a Hydro Cannon, so I'm risking it all. I'm going for the Skull Bash, looking to surprise knock them out, but they shield! No! Oh, that is devastating, and my opponent will fire off a Chilling Water right before I get the Hydro Cannon. It was a risk. If it paid off, it would have put me right back in the game, but it didn't. My opponent double shielded the Florages, and now I'm probably just going to lose this game. I will be firing off the Psyshock with Metang. I need this debuff Psyshock to put it in 1 Fury Cutter range. Psyshock lands, but it's in 2 Fury Cutter range, not 1, so they'll get another Chilling Water, and this Florages basically 1v3'd me. Let's see, what do they have in the back? In the back, they have Corviknight. They have a second counter to Kommo'o. That is definitely not ideal. I do have a ton of energy on the Kommo'o, but this Corviknight is going to be a big issue. The one good thing that I have going for me is I think I can outpace. So I'm going to farm up to the back-to-back upper hands, and hopefully I can just take the knockout, and they're either weak to the Kommo'o or they're weak to the Metang, but they have just enough energy to CMP tie. I am not going to be able to get my third upper hand, and I bring in Metang, just curious as to what they had in the back. Psyshock will be able to knock out the Corviknight. What was that final Pokemon? And it was Charjabug. Charjabug would have taken big damage from Clanging Scales, but would not have got one shot. So I think either way, I probably just lost that game when the Skull Bash was shielded. We move to the next match, picking up a pretty okay lead, Kommo'o into Stunfisk. Stunfisk still puts up a very nice fight in the zeros, as I'll be able to take the knockout with double upper hand, but I'm going to pay a pretty heavy price. My Kommo'o is going to end up deep into the red. Upper hand debuffs once again. I don't know what the upper hand debuff chance is, but I was getting upper hand debuffs left and right throughout these sets. My goodness. Here I'm going to throw 2 in the move. I'm trying to exit with as much residual energy as possible. Upper hand will take the knockout. My opponent sends in Shadow Scizor, and unfortunately, I do not get that upper hand. That is really tough, because being down energy to Scizor is incredibly bad for my backline. So I will be shielding up as my opponent full sends the Trailblaze, and now they're going to send out Furret. Oh, this is so bad. I bring out Metang, but Metang doesn't really want to see Furret anyway. Furret, obviously, the charge moves will be resisted, but the Sucker Punches do add up. I farm up a ton of energy. I'm expecting a shield from the Furret, so I will go for the Psyshock bait, but they end up calling it. That is unfortunate. I guess I should have just full sent the Gyro Ball. Now I will go for the Gyro Ball, but my opponent will be able to shield and farm me down. Back in comes Blastoise, and I forgot I had the back-to-back Hydro Cannons loaded. In my head, for some reason, I thought I was 1 rollout short, so that's why I end up accidentally going over 100 energy, because I misremembered how much residual that I had. Hydro Cannon gets shielded, but Furret loses charge attack priority to Blastoise. All that boosted Furret energy goes down the drain. Back in comes Shadow Scizor, but it's just getting outpaced. 100 energy Blastoise, just too terrifying. Down goes Scizor, and that's a good game. We see our second Zweilous lead of the video, leading this time into the non-Shadow Zweilous. Now, Zweilous, not going to be a big fan of upper hand, so I can pretty easily grab an early shield, but the Dragon Breath damage does add up quite a bit, so I will farm up a ton of energy. My opponent, they probably knock out here with the Body Slam, so I'm going to shield. I want to try and pressure shields away from them, or ideally just knock them out, because I am a little bit weak to this Pokemon in the back. I don't want to concede the farm down, so I pivot into the Blastoise. My opponent is going to be sending out Gastrodon, and Gastrodon is a little bit of an annoying Pokemon because it can barely survive 2 Hydro Cannons. I'm going to look to overfarm quite a bit with the Blastoise, as my opponent will connect with the Body Slam. My switch timer will be coming up very soon as well, and I see the vision. I need this Hydro to land, and then to catch it onto the Kommo'o, but my clock just wasn't up by like a quarter of a second. And unfortunately, I'm unable to save that Hydro Cannon, and in the back is Shadow Scizor. I try for the catch, I don't get the catch, but even if I got the catch, I still think I probably lose this because Metang gets absolutely shredded by every single steel type. That is the downside of running something on the spicier side of things, is you're gonna have matchups where you're at an extremely big disadvantage, and this is one of them. Seeing Scizor anywhere that isn't the Blastoise is basically an auto loss for this team, and it's part of why this team is a team for fun rather than for climbing. Gyro Ball still not enough to KO the Shadow Scizor, and unfortunately we will lose that game. Hopping into what I believe is the final match, and what a lead, Kommo'o into Thievul. My opponent safe switches into Gastrodon, and you know what? I'm going for it all. I'm going for the Clanging Scales. Come on, Gastrodon. Let's see what you got. And they put up the shield, so sadly, we do not get to see that damage. In comes Blastoise. Blastoise, more than happy to absorb Body Slams from Gastrodon. Body Slam is going to land. I'm going for the Skull Bash as soon as I get there, and I'm more than happy to put up the shield. If I'm going to shield something, I want to shield before I buff up my defense. Because even though Skull Bash will not knock out, it's going to be inflicting some pretty serious damage. This can set up a rollout farm down for the Blastoise. They can go for a third Body Slam, but it simply will not knock out. The Skull Bash putting in massive work. It turns out I'm not one off the next Skull Bash, so I'm forced to just settle for a Hydro Cannon into the Thievul, but I've seen teams like this before. I know it's going to be a Wigglytuff in the back, and by keeping switch advantage, I have won this game, as Wigglytuff is about to get absolutely deleted by Metang. No baits here from Metang, full send in the Gyro Ball, massive damage, absolutely crushing Wigglytuff. Wigglytuff, it just has no coverage for steel types. It's absolutely helpless. Icy Wind is going to land. Metang is very bulky, so Metang just shrugs off that damage. Metang now going for the Psy Shock, as a Fury Cutter down seems unlikely. Back in comes the Thievul. Sucker Punch is hitting for super effective damage. Metang gets to the Gyro Ball. Gyro Ball is going to force the shield, and in comes Kommo'o. At this point, I've lost count, but I know if I shield, they can never get to a Night Slash plus a Play Rough. So they go for the Night Slash. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, I had a ton of fun getting to run some Spice today. As I mentioned at the start, this is not a team that I recommend if you're looking to gain Elo, because anytime you put together two spicy Pokemon to form a core, you're going to have a lot of weaknesses. We saw what happened in that Florages game. When I saw one of my negative matchups, I basically got 1v3'd by a Florages. Florages did big damage onto the Kommo'o, KO'd an entire Blastoise, KO'd 90% of the Metang as well, and this team would have similar results if it led into a Scizor. So this is part of why I am very much a believer in differentiating between what's a team for climbing and what's just a team that I'm running for fun. Because this team, while I did have a ton of fun with it, I ended up going 8-4. This is the kind of team that you run if you're pretty satisfied with where you're at in the season. If you think, you know what, I've made my Elo goals, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, but I still want to play some GBL, have some fun, then this is a pretty solid team to do so. But if you're looking to gain Elo, I will be posting quite a few teams this week that are strong Elo climbers, but this is just having fun with Kommo'o and Metang. And for Metang, it's a little bit of a teaser. And that's because Metang is a very strong pick for an upcoming GBL limited meta. It's called the Pokemon Go Championship Series limited meta. It's arriving in 1 week's time. You can see it on the schedule in your app. And the Championship Series limited meta is a really cool one. Pokemon like Dugong, Oranguru, Gyarados, Glalie, and Metang all have starring roles. Oh, and Turtonator. How could I forget Turtonator? So we've got this triple rotation, which would be a good week for climbing, but this upcoming week of Mega Masters and the Championship Series meta, I think is probably going to be the most fun week of the entire season. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.